name is Tammy Mitchell. I'm the Director of the Office of Energy System Planning and Performance at the New York State Department of Public Service. I've been designated to serve as the alternate representing the chair on the New York State Board on Electric Generation Siting and the Environment, or as it is also known, the Siting Board. I call this meeting of the Siting Board to order. Before moving to the agenda, I would like to introduce the alternates representing the permanent members of the Siting Board. When I call your name, please confirm that you are present. Mark Sanza, alternate representing the Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Conservation.
Present.
Kevin Malone, alternate representing the Commissioner of the Department of Health.
Present.
Vincent Ravishir, alternate representing the Commissioner of the New York State Department of Economic Development.
Present.
And John Williams, alternate representing the Chair of the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority.
Present.
Thank you. Secretary Phillips, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the agenda.
Thank you. We will begin with case 16-F-0062, application of 8 Point Wind LLC for the Certificate of Environmental Compatibility and Public Need pursuant to Article 10 to construct a wind energy project. An amendment petition presented by Jesse Shaw, Assistant Counsel, Department of Public Service. Jason Zaire, Chief of Environmental Certification and Compliance, Department of Public Service, and Robert Rosenthal, General Counsel, are available for questions. Jesse, please begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Designee Mitchell and members of the board. Is that better? Okay, is that good? Okay. Apologies. Good afternoon, Chair Designee Mitchell and members of the board. Before you today is a draft order granting a petition for amendment of the board's August 20th, 2019 order granting a Certificate of Environmental Compatibility and Public Need with conditions to 8 Point Wind LLC. The certificate authorized 8 Point Wind to construct and operate a commercial-scale wind energy project in the towns of Greenwood and West Union, Steuben County. As previously amended, it required the installation and operation of up to 25 wind turbines, together with associated temporary and permanent access roads, underground collection lines, a collection substation, up to 2 permanent meteorological towers, and operations and maintenance building and temporary staging and laydown yards. On January 30th, 2024, 8 Point Wind filed its 5th petition to amend its certificate to amend the sound testing compliance protocol attached as Appendix A to the certificate, seeking both substantive and non-substantive modifications to its data collection and processing. The Secretary to the Siting Board consulted with the staff of Department of Public Service, the Department of Environmental Conservation, and the Department of Health before issuing a February 13th, 2024 letter concluding that the proposed modifications would not result in a significant adverse increase to environmental impacts as compared to the certificated project. Therefore, the modification does not constitute a revision that would require a hearing under the regulations. 8 Point Wind explains that the proposed modifications to the sound testing compliance protocol are needed to make data collection and processing more efficient, create consistency within the protocol, remove redundant or unnecessary specifications, and eliminate sound descriptors not required by the certificate conditions. The modifications are also consistent with the sound testing compliance protocols for other Article 10 wind generation facilities. The Secretary's letter included a thorough review and addressed potential impacts of the proposed changes for the project related to noise and vibration. As summarized in the draft order before you, the proposed changes will not result in a significant adverse increase of environmental impacts as compared to the certificated project. Accordingly, the draft order before you approves the petition for amendment. This approval does not relieve 8 Point Wind of the need to comply with the terms, conditions, limitations, or modifications of the construction and operation of the facility as authorized in the certificate. This concludes my presentation, and we are available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. I have no questions or comments on this item. Let me turn to my fellow board members for any comments or questions. Mr. Sanza.
No comments or questions. Thank you.
Mr. Malone.
No comments or questions.
Mr. Ravishir.
No questions or comments.
Mr. Williams.
No questions or comments.
I now call for a vote. My own vote is in favor of the recommendation as described. Mr. Sanza, how do you vote?
In favor.
Mr. Malone?
I vote in favor.
Mr. Ravishir?
In favor.
Mr. Williams?
In favor.
The order is approved and the recommendation is adopted. We'll now turn to case 17-F-0282, application of Alleycat Wind Energy LLC for a certificate of environmental compatibility and public need pursuant to Article 10 for a proposed wind energy project located in Allegheny, Cattaraugus, Wyoming counties, New York, in the towns of Arcade, Centerville, Farmersville, Freedom, and Rushford. A rehearing petition presented by Russell King, Assistant Counsel, Department of Public Service. Jason Zaire, Chief of Environmental Certification and Compliance, Department of Public Service, and Robert Rosenthal, General Counsel, are available for questions. Russell, please begin.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Chair Designee Mitchell and board members. Before you today is a draft order denying Cattaraugus County's petition for rehearing of the board's November 28, 2023, order granting petition, in part, subject to conditions. On June 3, 2020, the board granted Alleycat a Certificate of Environmental Compatibility and Public Need for a 340-megawatt wind facility. As part of that certificate, the board delegated to the county the authority to issue a road use agreement for Alleycat's use of the county's roads and highways. Without this delegation, the county's authority to issue a road use agreement is preempted under PSL Section 172.1. Per Certificate Condition 4, the board may withdraw the delegated authority if the board finds that the county's actions were unreasonably delayed, withheld, or conditioned. On May 7, 2021, Alleycat filed a petition that argued that the county had unreasonably delayed negotiating and issuing a road use agreement, and asked for the county's delegated authority to be withdrawn per Certificate Condition 4. Alleycat supplemented that petition on March 15, 2024, noting that despite nearly 3 years of negotiations, the county had not issued a road use agreement. The board found that the county had unreasonably delayed issuing the road use agreement. Consequently, the board applied Certificate Condition 4 and withdrew the county's authority delegated pursuant to PSL 172.1. The board ordered Alleycat to make a filing describing how Alleycat plans to use, protect, and repair the county's roads. On December 19, 2023, the county submitted a petition for rehearing. Therein, the county alleged 2 errors of law. First, the county argued that withdrawing delegated authority amends the certificate and that the board did not follow proper amendment procedures. Second, and in the alternative, the county argued that the New York State Public Service Commission, and not the board, has the authority to withdraw the authority the board delegated. The county also alleged errors of fact and new circumstances. On December 28, 2023, the county amended its petition to argue that withdrawing the board's delegated authority preempts the county's ability to withhold or convey its property interest in its roads or highways. The draft order before you denies the county's petition for rehearing. The order finds that the board did not commit errors of law. First, Certificate Condition 4 enshrines the ability for the board to withdraw delegated authority when that authority is unreasonably delayed, withheld, or conditioned. Applying a certificate condition does not modify the certificate, and therefore there was no error of law. Second, PSL 172.1 grants the board, and not the commission, the authority to delegate otherwise preempted municipal permits, and thus the board, and not the commission, properly withdrew that authority. There was no error of law. Finally, the order explains that the county only has authority to issue a road use agreement pursuant to its own local law 11. This is a procedural local law, and thus it is preempted under Public Service Law 172.1. The board withdrew otherwise preempted authority, and thus the property interest has no bearing on whether the board committed an error of law. The draft order also finds that the board did not commit errors of fact, and that there are no new circumstances that would change the decision to withdraw the county's delegated authority. The county presented facts that were already before the board when the board decided to withdraw the county's authority, and in many cases, those facts were not relevant to the board's prior decision. That concludes my presentation for today, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. I have no questions or comments on this item. Let me turn to my fellow board members for any comments or questions. Mr. Sanza?
No comments or questions.
Mr. Malone?
No questions or comments?
Mr. Ravishir?
No questions or comments.
Mr. Williams?
No questions or comments.
I now call for a vote. My own vote is in favor of the recommendation as described. Mr. Sanza, how do you vote?
In favor of the recommendation as described.
Mr. Malone?
I vote in favor.
Mr. Ravishir?
In favor.
Mr. Williams?
In favor.
The order is approved and the recommendation is adopted. Secretary Phillips, is there anything further to come before us today?
There's nothing further.
Thank you. We are adjourned.